What's up? This is Shocks, and I'm here to talk about War Terran 3, also known as Ruins of Tarsonis. I'm also here to talk about your card's extended warranty, but we'll get to that in a bit. This is going to be definitely the longest video I've recorded so far, and honestly, it's probably going to be the longest video I record for this entire campaign, because this level is by far the hardest, by far the most complex, not only in this campaign, but honestly, like, think about all the missions across both StarCraft Vanilla and StarCraft Brood War. This level's up there amongst the hardest in terms of difficulty. Like, there's a lot to do, there's a lot of tricks to know, there's a lot of subtle things, there's a lot that can go wrong that is partially out of your control, as in some of it you can't control, some of it you just have no say on whatsoever. It's crazy, and I will explain all this. This is definitely going to be the most in-depth video, at least I've done so far, regarding all the stuff you can look into for each level. We're going to be jumping into a lot of different resources, so we're just going to dive right in. Honestly, it's going to be the easiest. I will be showing the world record run for this level, which is currently 5:18 real time, but what we're going to do at the start is a little bit different. We're going to start this level, and we are going to watch for a bit. Cutscene skip you can do here, by the way. Hopefully by this point you trust me when I say why you do these and how much time they save and stuff like that. This one saves a few seconds. Gets you access to these mining SCVs faster. We're just going to watch for a couple minutes. I want to point out a couple things about this base. First thing you notice is that this, well, you might notice, this command center is actually further away than it should be. So you can move it closer. Blizzard in their infinite wisdom, I don't know why they placed it so far away, as if the player is never going to notice, but whatever. So as everybody probably knows, you kill these 4 hives, yada yada. We have a nice little base here. We have 4 Marines outside the bunkers, 4 in each of the bunkers, 12 Marines total, 2 medics, Duran, and a couple SCVs. And regarding this choke and this choke, we also have a little path over here that ground units can't take, but it is a choke more or less. We're going to watch for about a minute and a half. I want to point out a couple things that are about to happen, because it is very important, even though it feels like I'm just wasting time right now. I promise you I'm not. I would talk about my day or something, but nobody wants to hear that, right? It's a beautiful day. All right, so minute 10. Minute 10 to the mission, this Mutalisk shows up. This one single Mutalisk. I'm going to go ahead and kill it with Duran. Duran, by the way, does 25 damage to small units. Mutalisks are small, as are Zerglings, so Duran is really, really good against Zerg. If you recall Mission 1, he kind of sucked against Terran, but in this level, he is extremely good. Alright, and we have 4 Zerglings coming from Brown. These are what I call token attacks. For any basketball fans out there, I don't know what the crossover is between basketball and StarCraft, but like in basketball, you might throw on a token pressure against teams, which means you do this full court press. And the job isn't to generate turnovers or anything like that, it's just to delay their offense, right? I don't know if this metaphor is going to go that well or not, but it's kind of the same here. I think what Blizzard wanted to do is let you know that Zerg had a presence on the map and just indicate that they will attack you. Because those attacks are never going to kill you if you're playing this game casually. I think nobody has ever died to those playing through this game casually. But they can absolutely kill speedruns. And I know this because they've killed my runs multiple times, those 2 attacks. So the reason I'm showing you these now is for 2 reasons. One is because when I show you the entire route, there's a lot of things that I will do to mitigate the risk of those attacks. Because if that Mutalisk gets to your SCVs and you have nothing back to defend your base, you literally just lose the run, okay? And those 4 Zerglings can easily overwhelm units at your home. So I do things in the run and in the route that will help reduce those chances. 2, those attacks, notice how I keep talking about them, they're not random. They're actually scripted. And when I say they're scripted, you might be like, what are you talking about? How are they scripted? I'm going to show you a couple things here. So there's this AIscripts.rar file. I don't remember where I got this, to be honest, and I need to upload it to speedrun.com. You might be able to find it on the internet, because I don't remember where I acquired it. So this is called AIscripts.rar. This is a list of a bunch of notepad, text documents that contain scripts for every single campaign mission. You might be looking at this wondering what you're looking at here. If you were to open this yourself and take a look, you'll see Zerg, Terran, Protoss. So what do these mean? These are those scripts for each race. So if you wanted to look at Brood War Terran, let's say Brood War Terran 1 where you're fighting the enemy Terran, then you would look at Terran, right? And you would find Brood War Terran 1 Town A. In this case, we want to look at Brood War Zerg 3. Or I'm sorry, we want to look at the Zergs for Brood War Terran 3. And since there's Zerg AIs, we're going to look in the Zerg folder. This is both vanilla and StarCraft. And if I look enough, I will find Brood War Terran 3. There's 4 different Zerg bases, right? So Town A, Town B, Town C, and Town D. It takes a little bit of time to make sense of which town is which. And thankfully, as a really good YouTube video maker, I already have these open in my notepad document. I'm telling you, folks, we're going very in-depth here today. Town A, Town B, Town C, and Town D. So Town C is... trying to think of how to explain it. Basically, this is... all right. It doesn't even go counterclockwise or clockwise or anything like that. Town A is top left, Town B is bottom left, Town C is top right, Town D is bottom right. Okay, so they didn't even make it easy to parse. If you look at Town B here, like I said, Town B is bottom left. We can see, hopefully this is easy to read, but we can see they add 1 Zerg Mutalisk to their attack after waiting 1500. I don't know what these units are, to be honest. We know that this attack happened about, what, a minute in? It takes a little bit to... Like, it takes experimentation, right? You got to play the level to make sense of it. But it's very helpful for understanding what's going to come as you play the level. Like I said, we know they send 1 Zerg Mutalisk. Town D is the bottom right Zerg, aka Brown, and as we just saw, they sent 4 Zerglings. Okay, so this is a really good resource to know of and to utilize. While we're talking about scripts, I do want to talk about SCM Draft. If you ever made maps back in the day, you probably used StarEdit, as I did when I was like 10 and wanted to make maps, so we're going to switch to that. This isn't too useful on this level, but last... I think it was last video. Yeah, because we were talking about beacons. Last video I was talking about how beacons don't really matter because the beacons themselves have no importance. It's all about the location they're mapped to. And I wanted to talk about that a bit. This is a really useful resource for understanding what's going on in the levels and what triggers are being run. If you aren't familiar with how Brood War maps run or how the campaign maps run, it's just a bunch of triggers that run. And if you bring a unit, say you need to bring a unit to this beacon, right? What happens, I'm going to look at the location layer, is that they have a location mapped to this beacon. The goal of this level is to kill the 4 Zerg hives, right? So if I take a look at my... Let's look at the classic map triggers, it's a little easier. If I look at, I think we're Force 1. Yeah, so as Force 1, we have this giant trigger that plays, I shouldn't even say plays, but has a condition, or has actions that dictate the win condition for the mission. So am I even looking at the right thing? I actually haven't looked at this. I am not. I'm looking at the post. Yeah. That's the second part of the victory condition. I want to look at this one. So these are the conditions for beating the level, right? I have to bring Samir Duran to that side disruptor beacon, and there can be no Zerg hives on the map. And once that's done, it plays the dialogue. It plays like 3 sets of dialogue where Stukov talks to Duran and spawns some ghosts on the map, yada yada. And when it says bring Samir Duran to side disruptor beacon, it's talking about this thing right here. Notice how it's named side disruptor beacon, right? Like that little zoom in. It's a very useful resource to understand, especially in this campaign. It doesn't matter a whole lot, but particularly on mission 7, it's really useful because doors open. It's not like doors just open on their own. They are their own locations, and you have to bring Marines to them, but you have to bring Marines within a certain square or rectangular area. Right? It's not very simple. And it's good to know what causes certain triggers to happen, because in that case, you can avoid certain things from happening, right? So just wanted to give a little shout out to SCM Draft 2.0. Very useful tool. Let's go back to this script. We just looked at two of the bases. Our main two problems when it comes to attacks in this level are going to be purple and brown, aka bottom left and bottom right. We just looked at brown, and we saw that at some time, we saw in the mission itself, it was about 1:10, they sent out 4 Zerglings, right? And we can see about 2,000 units of time later, again, I don't know exactly what these are, but I can see at about 2:30 in the mission, they're going to send out 8 Zerglings. And we are actually going to sit here and wait for that, because I want to prove that it does happen. This is another thing in the mission that will hurt you a lot. While we do this, we're going to take the time to build a refinery. I want to talk about mining on this map, because mining is very important. The route, aka the build order, you're going to build 5 SCVs, 3 siege tanks, you're going to research range from an academy, and you're going to build 2 bunkers. And that's all you're going to do the entire level. That is it. Okay, we don't need to mine. The barracks and the engineering bay can both float. That's going to be very useful for us. We're going to be sending the engineering bay to the left, the barracks to the right. The engineering bay is going to help us spot this hive. I would probably recommend watching the world record one first, because some of these things will make more sense. Just to prove that it has happened, very briefly, 8 brown Zerglings will be showing up and attacking somewhere. And again, this is not an attack that would ever kill a casual player just trying to play this game and experience the StarCraft lore on their own. But if you're speedrunning this and trying to beat this with minimal forces and as fast of time as possible, then it will absolutely kill a run. And when it kills a run, you feel very, very dumb, right? It is very, very demoralizing. I would like to prevent that kind of pain, and for anybody else, because I have experienced it a lot. So I said I wanted to talk about this refinery. We've already moved the command center closer. We're going to mine from this refinery, and notice these SCVs. Oh, and by the way, you're only going to get enough SCVs, or like, I suppose you can mine with 3, but it's faster. For the build order itself, it's much better to just mine with 2 SCVs from gas. You don't need a whole lot of gas in this mission. If you think about it, what are you going to spend gas on? You're going to spend it on marine range, that's 150. You're going to spend it on the factory, which is 100. You're going to spend it on the machine shop, which is also 50. And then each tank is 100 gas. So you're more mineral heavy on this map. You don't need that much gas, and having 2 SCVs on gas is very sufficient for the build we're going to do. However, as we mine from this refinery, notice how they take this path that's like diagonal and they go up. It's pretty inefficient, right? I'm not going to give too many shoutouts over the course of this campaign, because I don't know who invented a lot of these strats, but I will say for this level, Thedorton, who I believe is from France, who runs this game and I think owns 3 or 4 of the 6 full campaign world records, did a lot for this mission, because I believe they're the first person that I've seen that's built this academy like this, which is very useful. So again, let's look at this one last time. Notice how their route goes left and then up, and their route back is the same, right? Bottom right and then down. Very, very slow. However, if I were to build this academy right here, we're gonna cheat and do Operation Can't Wait Any Longer. And then mine again, we're gonna see that their path is much more straightforward. It's almost nearly vertical. And they're a lot faster getting from and to the minerals. Much, much better, right? Now, just to show my work, I have put a lot of time into this. When it comes to this build, like I said, we're very mineral heavy, right? And we only make 5 SCVs, 2 of which are out on the map. One is going to proxy that factory in the top. One of which is going to build the bunker below purple space. I'm not going to go over these numbers one by one. I just want to show you that I have to work into it. So this is one of the many notepad documents that I have. There's only a few levels in this campaign where this is really necessary, but it's showing how important it is to look at each mineral patch and understand how fast it mines. Because what I found is as I improved the world record over time, a lot of it came from optimizing mining. It's really important to never be waiting for minerals or gas. And I will point out times as I go over the run where this is really important. Instead, what's easier for people to digest, I think, is this picture I'm going to show. Let's take a look at this. This is from 1 to 7, the order of how fast these minerals are mined from. So you have 5 SCVs, right? Or 5 or 6. You want to mine from 1 first, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, yada yada. It's a little weird because you look at 7, and you might say 7's really close. How does it mine so slowly? So I will showcase some of these things, and I'm going to do that right now. I think a real video maker would have cuts here. They would stop recording right here and then cut to the next scene. But sorry, folks, you're not going to get that here. We're going to do a little test. We're going to mine from 7. Let's say 4. So 4 is this patch right here. 4 is further away, right? But we're going to mine from 7 and 4 at the same time. So I'm going to send these two. And notice when 7 mines, its return is okay. But when it comes back, it like collides with this mineral patch. And 7 started a little earlier than 4, right? I had 7 start mining first. But we already see that 4 has overtaken 7 and is faster. And is already returning its set of minerals faster. That's a pretty big deal. We're going to look at one more patch, or 2 more patches, I should say. Go back to this. You see 5 is faster than 6, which is pretty crazy, right? 6 is literally closer. How can that be possible? Well, let's compare again. Let's hope Duran doesn't die. If you mine like this, and this is really important for single player speedrunning the game and also multiplayer. For anybody that has a multiplayer background, you're probably already very familiar with the fact that the way you mine from patches, aka the location that you start your mining from, is really important. And by the way, give me 1 sec. I'm going to move my mic. It's going to have a different sound, but this should be a little better because I realized that my mic was on my desk, and when I click and stuff, it probably has a real loud thumping noise, so I apologize for that. This should be much more tolerable to your ears. But like I was saying, if you've played multiplayer, you know you do have to optimize mining certain mineral patches, which is extremely important when you're playing a PvP, right? You don't want their probes mining faster than yours. 5 and 6, as I call these 2 minerals, we're going to take a look. We're going to start 6 first. And notice how when you mine like this, 6 is a little faster than 5. We're going to look at a couple trips. 5 might overtake 6, actually. But 5 has that really slow turnaround. Notice how when it turns around from mining these minerals, it's really slow, right? So 6 is still faster than 5, no question. However, if we mine from the top, we're going to start 6 first and then 5. And 5 even had to walk a little bit. It had to walk, run, slide, whatever you want to call it, to get to those minerals. So it had a disadvantage from the start. But let's watch over a couple trips and hope that nobody comes to kill us. Normally I'm not in the mission this long. 5's already catching up, right? Notice how it's mining from the top of the minerals rather than down here. And 5 is already returning its minerals faster. It's getting back to its minerals faster than 6, despite being further away. This is the beauty, if you want to call it, of StarCraft Brood War. I mean, this game is just crazy, and there's so many small things like this that you have to look into that are extremely important. And notice how 5 is already freaking soaring past 6. Stuff like this is... And granted, I've done the work for you, so please listen to what I'm saying if you want to pick up this level, and you're going to have a much better time than a lot of people who had to figure this out on their own or never did figure this out. With all that said, that's all I wanted to show of this base for now. There's going to be more later. Let's jump into the run after I've talked about all of that. Let's go to our trusty Firefox here. And we'll full screen it. I talked earlier, there's a cutscene skip here. It saves, I believe, about 4 or 5 seconds. I do not remember off the top of my head. But it gives you access to your units faster, which, of course, is really important. Now, I am sorry for the spam. Again, I do spam a lot. I talked in Mission 1 how I don't think APM is that important, but as someone who played multiplayer a lot, it's just hard for me to not play fast. With that said, this is the level that by far feels the most like a multiplayer match, since you are trying to kill all 4 bases at once. And with all the actions that I do at the start, this like setting the location hotkeys and stuff is really important to me because it makes a lot of this much easier. So right at the start, we're going to move Duran out of the way. I am going to slow this down. This is stuff, I will say this is stuff that I find important to do and is built into my muscle memory at this point. But and this is the build that I use, and that's gotten me a really good time, right? But there's probably more than one way to do this. So I'm trying to give you the understanding of why it's done this way and the way that I do it, but I encourage you to find different ways, different small ways to get this strat done. And at the end of the video, I will show a different trick that is not used in this run that I think could be used to possibly get a time better than 518. It's possible you can get a time better than 518 with this strat. I don't think it's going to be that easy to do, to be honest, because this level is so freaking hard. And there's a lot that I haven't even explained yet that can go wrong. But there's one specific trick that I think opens up some possibilities that can be toyed with. I do not have the time or drive to do it right now, but just throwing that out there. We're going to slow this down to, we'll do half. And right at the start of the mission, you're going to see I moved Duran out of the way once I get access to him. Lift the command center. Duran doesn't move. These SCVs will split themselves. I grabbed 3 Marines and a medic. And notice one thing that I do here that I think is very easy to miss is once this command center lands, I'll build the SCV, right? That's not easy to miss. But then I will manually return cargo. I'm going to go down to 0.25 just to point this out because it's very important, I think. I hit C to return cargo, right? Let's take a look in the game. Let me think. We'll just do it from here. So if I lift this guy off,
Yes, sir?
he's already finished mining, right? And if I land, notice how long it takes for him to realize, like, that's a long time. That's a few seconds. That's a long time. You do not want to wait that long. It's very important to manually return your cargo to get your mineral income started as quickly as possible. So that's why I'm showing this off. I promise it is with good intentions and not just saying, oh, look at how fast I am. Because that's not the case at all. Flash or any StarCraft pro could totally destroy me. We've done all that. We then lift off the eBay, and I think at this point, I'm going to speed it up in a sec. So once we've returned our first wave of minerals, I want to get that refinery built with one of those SCVs. And on top of that, I want to make sure that the 3 SCVs that are still building or that are still mining minerals are on efficient minerals. So if you recall that picture I showed you earlier, that's what I'm going for, right? I want one on this patch, one on this patch, and one on this patch. And now you understand why I'm going for that. So I think at this point I can speed it up. We've grabbed 3 Marines, a medic, and Duran, and we're heading to the top right. Let's go to the mission and take a look at what awaits us there, because that in itself is worth investigating. I think it's better to do it ahead of time. And unfortunately, I cannot zoom out here. One thing about this mission, I'm going to pause and talk about this, but first I'm going to take a drink, because this is a lot of talking. I can't speak for the Brood War level designers, but I'm quite certain when they developed this mission, it was with the intention of having a clear weakness for each Zerg base. If I look at bottom right, they have a cliff overlooking their base. If I look at purple in the bottom left, you can just drop a bunch of units up here. There's a weakness there. If I look at red, they have literally no anti-air. And if I look at purple, they have no anti-ground buildings. They do have mutas and guardians, but obviously it's just 4 colonies. Guarding this space is a bunch of guardians and mutalisks. And we have a pretty clear path to their hive taking this route. We can kind of skirt around the edge down here. And guarding this path are 2 guardians and 2 mutas. I'm going to point that out now. Gosh dang it, I'm so sorry. I forgot to show off what I was looking at. All right, that'll be the last time, I promise. So I'll restate. I went over the weakness of each base, right? But if I look at the orange base itself, we can kind of skirt around this bottom right edge and see we have 2 guardians and 2 mutas to worry about, and that's really all that's in the way of getting to this hive. It's not quite that simple, but I wanted to show this before showing the run because there's a way to do this strat, and it's good to know why it's done that way. So cutting back to the run. Like I said, we have 3 Marines, a medic, and Duran going up there. We then, with our first made SCV, we're going to build an academy in that spot I just talked about. Because again, we're going to speed up gas mining, and we're going to need range anyway. Notice how I put 2 Marines. So I took 1 Marine from the bottom bunker and moved into this top bunker. So we now have a distribution of 3 Marines in the bottom bunker and 2 in the top bunker. If you only have 1 Marine in this top bunker, or obviously if it's not defended at all, then those 4 Zerglings will kill it. Even with the Marine in the bunker, 4 Zerglings win that fight. And you do not want that to happen, for obvious reasons. So it's very important to distribute those Marines amongst the 2 bunkers in a 2-3 fashion. It doesn't really matter where you have 2 and where you have 3. I just found it easier to do that. As long as you have them both with at least 2, you're good to go. One thing I'll say about this mission that makes it so hard is, I think I said this at the start, but you have 12 Marines total, right? You can afford to lose 1 in some situations, but for the most part, let's say you cannot afford to lose a unit in this mission. Like, technically, you could lose 1 in the bottom right. It just makes it a lot harder. Marines have 40 HP, no armor. You do have those 2 medics, but Zerg attacks really fast. It's very easy to lose a Marine. Difficulty's pretty high here, is all I'm trying to say. We floated our engineering bay to the left. We also grabbed 4 Marines and a medic and sent those to the left too to start our assault on purple. And we floated our barracks. It's not going to be used quite yet, but it will be used in a bit. I think I've explained all that's going on so far. Let's continue. One thing I've noticed in my first couple of videos, this is a personal thing, but I said so a lot. I'd be like, so yada yada yada, so yada yada yada. Trying to cut that out. I'm not used to making videos about StarCraft that last this long, but whatever. In any event, let's continue. Like I said, we're going to build 5 SCVs. Our first one makes the academy, and our second one's going to mine. Notice how I lead with Duran up here, and I'm cutting back and forth so much because I want to keep an eye on this command center, because right when this SCV finishes, I want to go to the next most optimal mineral patch, which is this one right here, which is why I have the rally point right here. Get that going. Duran's going to lead. I want Duran tanking hits from these Guardians. They do 20 damage, so they 2-shot a Marine. Obviously, if a medic kills a Marine, then they 3-shot a Marine, but a medic does not out-heal the DPS of the Guardians, so that's a losing battle. Duran, on the other hand, has 200 HP and I think 2 armor. I'm going to cheat and look, because I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, he's got 2. He can tank Guardian hits all day, especially with medic support. I want him up there first, tanking those hits. I'm also going to bring him back down a little bit because I think this is a good time to showcase this. We're going to go back into the game. And I actually did it this time. Props to me. Let's look at the layout of these Guardians. Each Guardian, and this is not scripted by the way, this is just how the AI works, and it's something you have to learn. Each Guardian has a range of territory that they will defend. This Guardian in particular is probably... I can't even zoom out far enough to do it. But it's probably... You know what? Can I look at SCM draft to do it? Ooh, look at us. We're getting fancy. We have all our units here. This Guardian in particular, which is the first one going to kill, has a range of something probably like... I'm going to say like this. If you're in that range, he will come attack you. Okay? This Guardian has a similar range of something probably like this. It might even be a little further. It might be like this. Point being, and this is more accurate. Point being, as you kill this Guardian, you don't want to get too close to it, because if you go into this range, this Guardian will also attack you. It's very important to understand this, and if we go back to the run, you see that I bring Duran down, because I don't want that other Guardian attacking us. So I bait it out with Duran, and then walk down a little bit, because I don't want that other Guardian coming out. The goal here, of course, is to have Duran tank. His damage to Guardians is pretty rough, right? It's 7, but he attacks really slowly. He's concussive, so he does a 4th to Guardians. The Marines are going to be our main damage dealers there. Marines are also going to be who kill the Hive later in the mission. Once they get Marine range, they cannot die. Duran also can't die either, because if he dies, the mission is literally over. But that goes without saying. These 4 Marines and the medic are going to start assaulting this base. Let's take a look at this base. The campaign editor, that seems to be a little easier, I think. Our goal is to get this Hive. By doing, or in order to do that, we're going to grab 4 Marines, the medic, and this engineering bay starter level. And this engineering bay is going to spot for us. It's going to spot in order to kill this spore colony. And by killing this spore colony, the engineering bay can move north just enough to see this Hive. And we can then pick it off with the bunker that we're later going to construct. So right now we're getting into position. There's a muta here that we can bait. I'm going to full screen this, I'm sorry. It's probably a little easier to watch. There's a muta here that we can bait out at the very start. Makes our lives a little easier. That's what I'm going for right now. We baited that out, we're good to go. Now remember, I said earlier we have a Mutalisk attack coming about a minute 5 into the mission. It can go quite a few routes. This time we're going to go into the mission itself. This Muta can go like down, basically taking this path. They can come down south and then southeast directly to my SCVs. It can go east over this spore colony down to my SCVs, or it can go anywhere. These attacks are scripted. That much is clear. But the targets that they go for are completely random. From what I can tell, I think there's a priority when it comes to that Mutalisk. I think it's more likely to go for your SCVs, and the Zerglings are more likely to go for your attacking units or your bunkers. But I can't promise that. I think that's embedded in the game's code, so there's no way for me to really determine that. But that's my best guess. In any event, I can promise that it's random what they go for each run. The goal for this strat is to be really fast, but also safe, because I run this game of marathons. I need to be as safe as possible. Which means I want my units not only to be assaulting the enemy, but also to be protecting possible, I guess, protecting for any possible outcome. Back to the run. We've killed that Guardian. We're going to slide our units up the right. Duran first, as always, and he's going to tank hits. We're going to assault 2 Mutalisks and the next Guardian. And notice how I shift-click, so I start. We'll slow it down a little bit. I start with the Mutalisk closest. I shift-click the next Mutalisk and then the Guardian, because the Mutalisks do more damage, right? They're the bigger threat. On the other hand, or not on the other hand, but on the other side of the map, the eBay is in place, and at the same time, our 23rd SCV or our 22nd SCV is finished building. This is our second to last SCV. That SCV is going to be rallied to the top, where it's going to proxy a factory. Our second to last SCV is going to be rallied to the top to build a factory. Important to remember for the build. And it's hard to talk about this mission with so much going on. These Marines in the bottom left, their goal is to pick off the Spore, like I said. This Zerg has a bunch of Hydras that it will fight back with. I'm actually going to demonstrate this live. It might be a little easier to do so. We're going to follow the same strat. One Marine, or one medic, 4 Marines. Purple has a lot of Hydras, and of course a couple mutas protecting this. But the AI is really weird here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to bait out this muta, as we always do, because it's so easy to do. The AI has a weird quirk where if you fight the Hydra's back, they will just back off, even though they're in an advantage, right? Like, they're above you. But if I start targeting the Spore, the Hydras can come shoot me. I'm gonna laugh because they won't do it this time. This is actually really rare for it to play out like this. Normally these Hydras are gonna come fight you back. This time they're dropping me. We'll get to drops in a bit. This is what makes this level so annoying. So of course, while I do a tutorial, they're not going to do it. But normally those Hydras will come fight you back, and if you shoot them once, if the attack hits, they'll back off and run away, which of course is really useful for us. The thing to remember though is, if you have these Marines on hold position, they'll start off by attacking the Spore. However, if a Hydra attacks them, they'll fire back at the Hydra, and if the Hydralist goes out of range, then the Marines will bug out and not do anything, and they have to be manually told to re-attack the Spore. That's all I wanted to showcase here. And going back to the run itself, I believe we'll see that play out. Marines are on hold position. I have this at a slower speed. I think that's okay, actually. I want to get them all close enough. You do not want the medic on hold position, because medics on hold position kind of suck. They need to be on attack so they can heal anything that's within, scene range. If they're on hold, they're just going to sit there, and, for example, it could not heal this Marine. It's too far away, which is a disaster. Because you cannot lose one of these Marines. Multiple attacks going on. We've taken out the top right Guardian. Let's go back to this top right assault for a bit, because this is going to be the first thing you do in the mission anyway. It's going to be the first assault that wraps up. Once you've done this, you want these 3 Marines to stay in place. They're going to be used to kill the Hive later, as I said earlier. And you want to get Duran and the medic out of there right away. The easiest way is to do it the way you came in, which is going south and then southwest. And of course, the entire time, you're wanting to keep your SCVs pumping. I mean, you're only making 5, so it's not really pumping. But you're wanting to send them to the optimal minerals as they get built, right? I think I've explained that sufficiently by this point, so I won't keep talking about it. That's less SCV, so it's going to go to the top mineral. Once your academy is done, you will start range right away. Range is your first big upgrade that you need to start killing stuff. And notice how I send him up. Okay, so he mines from the top, and notice how this guy goes to the next efficient, yada yada. This SCV needs to take a very specific route. We're going to cut back to the game. If that SCV runs on this side of that little cliff or whatever, like if he comes up here, he's going to attract this Ultralisk. And this Ultralisk is freaking out for blood, dude. It will chase down that SCV and not stop for anything. And let's be real, you have nothing in this mission, at least at that point, that is capable of killing this Ultralisk. Like, if this Ultralisk got to your base, it would just kill everything. So, you do not want your SCV running here, because otherwise it will get caught by the Ultralisk and die. That's why, notice how when I send it, after it's built, I click about right here. and it's going to take this route. And I hope there's nothing in. There's no imminent threats coming. The next attack's at about 445, but I'm going to power overwhelming to be safe. But notice by clicking the beacon that way, it's going to take this route that does go to the left, but not close enough to draw the attention of the very fearful Ultralisk. Or feared Ultralisk, I should say. So I wanted to point that out. I think this run went pretty well. There's a number of... I've done this run so many times, like this whole campaign run so many times, that I have memories all the times it hasn't gone well. But I think I've explained it. The people that want to run this, if they do in the future, you're going to have to play and pick it up on your own and figure out exactly what I'm talking about. But I hope this video at least sets you up well enough to be in that position. Just get used to times where the Hydralisks do fight back and go in and out of Marine range, and you have to manually keep targeting that Spore, because it will happen. You will not get dropped, at least at that point in the mission, because they do not have drop yet. They had, they dropped me, they had drop in my game that I just showed you because I'm already like 4 minutes to the mission, but you're never going to get dropped that early. Okay, we're extracting Duran and the medic. We're going to get our SCV to this base. Oh, and by the way, I want to point out, these Marines, I don't think I actually explicitly said this, but from being here, these Marines and medic were able to snipe the Mutalisk that came. That was going to probably kill all my SCVs, right? So just wanted to point that out. It's very important to catch that. There's times where if I'm playing this a little more safely, keep in mind that this is a single or this is an IL run, so I wasn't really playing that safely. But if I'm doing a full campaign run, or definitely for a marathon, then what I'll instead do is I'll wait until I know where that Mutalisk is, and I'll park my Marines and medic like right here, because I'm guaranteed to catch it if it takes the south and then southeast route, or if it takes this east and then south route. I'm guaranteed to catch it here. This is by far the safest way to play it. But if you're doing it for an individual level run, then you're going to play really recklessly, right? But that's something really good to know. This is also something really good to know. Those two Mutalisks came at about 445. That is very important, and we will talk about that in a bit. If you want to get an idea of my safe strats, I've run this game at ESA. I've run it in a different online marathon. Obviously, I do a kind of a safer strat when I do the full campaign runs, so feel free to look those up and get an idea of what I'm talking about when I say safer strat. Because the idea of a safe strat in this level, your strategy overall doesn't change. You're doing the same thing, but you're a little safer with your units to protect, one, your home base, and also to protect your units as they're out on the map attacking. Like I said, you can kind of afford to lose one Marine, but generally you shouldn't. You should try to avoid it. Right when we get to this spot, we're going to have just enough gas to build a factory. Works out pretty well, right? You should aim, 141 and 42, really good factory timing. I'm very happy with that. This is, of course, the world record run, so you should expect nothing less. Like, it should be really good, right? Right after you start your factory, you're going to send an SCV off one of the two least efficient minerals that you're mining from in your main to build the bunker that's going to be used to assault bottom lefts. So I've started the factory. I am kind of playing with Duran here. It's some miss micro, but it ends up not really mattering. So right when the factory dies, I get 100 minerals. I pull off the SCV off this patch and send them over here to build that bunker. I grab the medic, the rest of the Marines in the main, and the other medic that was used to help Duran are going to assault bottom right. This bunker's coming. I don't think it's been explicitly said, but from this spot with Marine range, the bunker can hit the hive. Of course, anybody that's played Brood War enough knows attacking up a cliff has about a 50% chance of actually hitting. When I talk about RNG in this level, that is a thing. Like, sure, if you hit 54 or 55% of your attacks, or even more, then yeah, you're gonna have a better time, at least when it comes to killing this base. But there's a number of things that can go wrong here that I'll talk about in a bit. But for now, it's about getting your hive there. And we're just getting these Marines into place a little bit. They can't do anything yet because they don't have range. And you want your eBay just close enough to be able to see the hive. They will target the hive, they being the Marines in the bunker, will target the hive over the larva, which is extremely, extremely good for us because larvae have, what, 10 armor and never die unless they're getting shot by Dragoons or something. So very useful that our Marines completely ignore them. And now we assault the bottom right, and we land that barracks. We're going to be able to wall. Oh, and I keep pointing out Duran, he's out of position. And I move him to that one specific spot. Why did I move him to that spot? Because, as we saw earlier, at about 2:30 in the mission, those 8 Zerglings come out on the map from Brown and go attack. They can come... There's only 2 ways they can leave their base. They can go up this ramp over here. Remember, we're going to have a bunch of units right here. Or they can go up this exit. So by placing Duran right here, we have completely walled the Zerglings in the sense that we have units ready to kill them regardless of which way they go. It is very, very, very important that you have a plan for those Zerglings. Like I said earlier, what I found is they will tend to attack aggressive units or buildings, so bunkers or Marines, what have you. What I've found is that they almost always, and I don't know if this is me being unlucky or whatever, but they almost always target the factory in the top left of the map, and you don't want that. I mean, that's just a run killer, right? You can't recover from that if they start attacking that factory. If a tank comes out, by the time it gets out, the factory's already burning, so you're in trouble. You have to micro the tank to kill the Zerglings because the tank doesn't win that straight up. It can if you micro it by hitting and running and kiting them, but you're throwing in that extra micro while doing everything else, like it's just a mess. That's why you send Duran. And again, if you're doing an individual level, you can accept that if something bad happens, you're going to lose anyway, but pulling Duran from this base doesn't do much. If he's not there hitting the Zerglings, then he can be down here getting chip damage in on the hive, but it's up to you. So Duran's up there protecting us. We have these Marines and medics down here. Our Marines are going to start hitting their buildings. We want to kill this Evo chamber and this Spore colony because the bunker will target those. After we killed those 2, there's nothing in the way from our bunker that we will build from hitting the hive. There's 2 Mutalisks and a number of Zerglings and Zerglings and Hydralisks on the ground below that will come to fight us back. That's why this bunker is really helpful, and you're going to see the kind of micro that you need to do here. I don't think the micro I do here in this run is particularly good, but it gets the job done. Right when this bunker is done, I come back and start mining, and range is not quite done yet. I will point out when it's done. So you've started targeting the Evo. Range just finished. I'm actually going to go straight to top right. We're going to talk about, let me show you what I do here. So I place 1 Marine here. I grab the 2nd Marine, place it here. The factory finishes, I jump to that immediately. Land it. I got to go back to these units. There's a lot going on here, man. I'm looking for those 8 Zerglings. That's what I'm looking at Duran for. Because I've lost a run or 2 to Duran dying here, which is very silly, right? Zerglings do 3 damage to him. He has 200 HP. He 2-shots Zerglings, but if they surround him, he will die. And you have to be a bad player to let him die, but I'm a bad player because I have let him die many a time. So I jumped to Duran there to make sure the Zerglings are on top of him. And I actually make a mistake in this run, which is kind of funny, because I send an SCV to this mineral patch when it really should be mining here. I said earlier 2 SCVs on the refinery, the entire level, but not really the entire level. That was a lie. You do have 3 on the refinery while you build the machine shop, because that's going to get you just enough gas to get siege mode. which I think I forgot to mention earlier when I was talking about how much gas you needed. Siege mode is 150 minerals, 150 gas. And you do need that to beat the mission. This is the 8 Zergling attack. We were able to draw it this way. The kind of micro you want here, you can do this however you want, but I like having the medics in front to block and to bug the AI out. Pretty basic StarCraft Brood War, right? Just mess with the AI as much as you can. This can go really bad. They will win this fight if you don't micro. If you let your Marines take hits, you will die here and lose runs. And yes, that has happened to me as well. Okay. We have 3 SCVs on gas. We're hitting the hive. Look, notice how we're ignoring the larva. We're getting our machine shop. We now have all 3 Marines in place attacking the hive. Let's talk about these Marines in the top right. This is really important. Again, I'm not going to be giving out shoutouts left and right, especially since I don't know who came up with a lot of this stuff, if it's not something that I found on my own. But again, Thedorton came up with this, at least to my knowledge, he came up with this placement because this is really, really useful. I talked earlier about how each Guardian has a certain range. So this Guardian probably goes to about here. This Guardian goes to about here. It will defend anything in this area. And this Guardian goes to, I can't even like zoom out far enough, but it goes to about here. And let me showcase this. I'm gonna reload because I don't want Black Sheep Wall to be active. If I were to not research range and tell my Marine here to come kill this hive, it's gonna draw that Guardian ASAP and die. Same if I come from this way. If I come attack from this way, bam, it draws both. If I research range, but still like don't respect that and come in here, let's say I target it from here. I kind of botched that. Let me redo it. I'm gonna save with range because I've made my point. If I just target it, this is actually safe, but point still stands, right? Like if I get close enough within the Guardian's range, it will come kill me. However, what Thedorton found is that if you hug the minerals like this, basically go right to the center, you can target, and I'm not saying this is 100%, like this is still a little finicky. You have to be right in the center of the minerals, because if you do get closer, there's times where it will come target you, like that. There's times where it'll just ignore you, so go figure. It can be very frustrating, but I found it to be like 90% sure where if I'm smack dab in the middle of the minerals like this, it will not care. I guess the queen cares. The queen will parasite you, but it doesn't really matter. These two Marines, if you hug the minerals like this, can target this hive.
Base is under attack.
And the Guardian above won't care at all. If I were to come in a little closer, just a little closer, we're talking like a few pixels. Maybe a little closer. There, that one cares.
Base is under
And then targets the other one since it now sees it. But if I were to hug these minerals up here, and then target the hive, that Guardian's gonna kill us right away. So the entire point of all this is to show you the range of these Guardians, and that if you hug the minerals in that way, so this one hugs the mineral, this one also comes down, oops, hugs the other Marine, like that. This is the best, most consistent way to set up these Marines, and they will never be targeted by all these Guardians. They can be targeted by the 8 Zerglings that will come from here at about 230, and by 2 Mutalisks that will come from here by about 440, 445. But this should be dead by then. I believe I made my point clear. If you set them up in this way, I'm going to do it one more time for completion's sake. So you have your 3 Marines here. Hug the minerals in the middle.
base is under
Come down, hug the minerals like this. Come down, hug the marine like that. And you are completely safe. You're free to kill this hive. The drones here couldn't care less. You're a-okay. If you don't follow this, so if you send the marine, hug it like that, and then you just click the hive,
Base is under attack.
it's gonna get too close. Or maybe this is okay. I don't know. I haven't played or toyed with it to any other extent besides what's worked. But you get my point. It's if you just hug the minerals like this, you're good to go. If you do anything else, you're risking it. That's all I'm saying. So don't come crying to me when Guardians kill your Marines and you lose your world record attempts. That's all I'm saying. I made my point clear. I hope I have at least. So that's the Marine position in the top right. And once I saw that the Zerglings went down here to kill these, or to try to kill this army, I sent Duran from that position in the middle right because his job is done. He can now get as much chip damage in on this hive as possible. Granted, he only does about 6-7 damage per shot, but hey, that's not nothing, right? He's guaranteed to hit attacking from above, so we take those. In the meantime, we have set up a little wall here. Anybody that's played online knows about, like, well, I'm a Protoss player, so I make everything about Protoss, but if you're playing PvZ, Protoss versus Zerg, you're going to do Forge Fast Expand, and Gateway above Forge is a Zergling-proof wall, so no Zerglings can get through, and you can just build cannons behind it and be safe, right? In this case, these two medics in this barracks like this is a Zergling-proof wall. Zerglings cannot get through. Obviously, if Zerglings can't get through, Hydras can't either. You can position this here as well, which is a little lower. And it's the same thing. Zerglings can't get through, nor can Hydras. Just wanted to showcase that because this is extremely useful. You want that bunker in the bottom left to only be attacking the hive and not be distracted by units. Once I've killed all the units, they're coming to attack me, which is mostly those 8 Zerglings and then maybe a different, an early Hydra or something. But basically, once I've seen those 8 Zerglings come, I will then wall off this this little entrance with my medics. Oh, and the reason I don't just do that at the start is because those Zerglings can, if they want to, just kill those medics. So you don't want that to happen. You want to kill those Zerglings before they have a chance. Like, say you leave your Marines in the back and you block with your medics and your Marines are killing the Evo and the Spore Colony that I talked about earlier. Those Zerglings could just pick off your medic even though they shouldn't be attacking it, and then your run's kind of over, right? It's not over, but those Zerglings didn't have a chance to kill your Marines, so don't want that to happen. But those 8 Zerglings are dead, so you're free to wall off. Like I said, this is Zergling, Hydra-proof, what have you. I personally like having one Marine up, fending off any Hydras that get close, because you can build this bunker, and if they have, like, they're not going to attack your medics, right? But if they're trying to run by and they get a Hydra really close, your bunker could start shooting at it. You don't want to waste any shots. You want to be killing that hive ASAP. Which is why I send a Marine up here to fend off, to ward off any Hydras or Zerglings that make it a little too close and draw fire from the bunker. Once you get 250 gas, you have enough for siege mode and your first tank. That's when I pull off my SCV, my third SCV from the gas, and that's going to come build the bunker for me. And in the meantime, we're going to get Duran in this one position. Duran can hit this hive. It's a little finicky, but he can hit it from here. Building that bunker doesn't trap him in or anything like that. And look at us now. We are in position to kill 2 of the hives now. We're setting up to kill the last 2, and we're looking pretty good. Again, I made the mistake of letting that SCV mine from that bad mineral patch, but at this point in the level, you're pretty much good to go. I don't know how this happened, but one of the Zerglings did get past, it just decided to take a different route or something. I don't know exactly what happened, but point being, they do like targeting this factory. Thankfully, it was just one. I like that this proves my point. I forgot this happened, to be honest, in the world record run, but it's good to know. We can talk about this factory, actually. This is a good segue, thanks to this very helpful Zerglin. Let's jump back here. This factory placement
Base is under
is
attack.
actually ultra-proof. Ultralisks cannot get through. Zerglings can. And you will find that if you start targeting these buildings, it's very possible for these Zerglings to not like that.
Base is under
So if I just sit here targeting the Instructor, these Zerglings will come and let me know they're not a fan. You don't want this to happen. You're going to notice that when I do this run, after I kill this Zergling, I immediately, every time I build a tank, send it out of the range of that Extractor, because I don't want it attacking that. To get this Marines in there, and notice how I do make a mistake and leave it on this mineral, but then I compensate. Or not compensate, I correct it. This tank is going to get built, kill the Zergling, and actually I take it back. I do make a mistake here. Tanks, what, 3-shot Zerglings? I think I make a mistake and accidentally target this by one of my tanks. And I don't have sound on for this, but I remember making an audible groan or sigh because I knew the ramifications of that, of what they could be, I guess. I was very scared about that, but thankfully in this run it turned out okay. But you can see I run the tank away from the Extractor. Make a habit of that because you don't want to deal with those Zerglings getting on your tanks. You can also get Dark Swarms by a Defiler that's in that base, and that's problems, man. You don't want to deal with that. We saw earlier 2 Mutas came and attacked me when I was showcasing something. I don't even remember what. But those 2 Mutas can go anywhere, and they really like targeting that factory. Make a habit of having Duran leave the space at about 4 minutes. Again, he's not doing a whole lot of damage. And he can come protect these tanks. Like, you don't have to do that in an individual level attempt, but definitely in a marathon or safe strat, or if you're just learning the game, whatever. I know I've said that a bunch of times, but I like to make it clear. He can come protect these tanks if you pull him early at about 4 minutes. It takes him about 45 seconds to walk up here. And you need to bring him up here to complete the mission anyway, so it works out pretty well. I think it's here. I think I accidentally attack. Yeah, I accidentally attack it there, and I know during the run I kind of groaned or gasped. I get Dark Swarmed. Thankfully the AI was nice here and did not send any Zerglings. It unburrowed and then immediately reburrowed. But I did show that if you continually attack it, they will come try to kill you. And Dark Swarm's broken, so you can't even attack units under it. Very sad. Notice how each time my tank is about to finish, I have 100 gas to build the next one. You're going to get 3 out in total. Durant's coming up. He's going to come protect these tanks from this low ground. Excuse me, / get on the beacon when the mission's done. And I believe I've showcased everything of importance in this mission, so we're going to speed this back up. .445, we see those mutas. I'm looking for them as I'm playing this because it can make or break the run. If they come down here to that bottom left bunker, they're going to draw fire. That's wasted hits. Thankfully they don't, which is what makes this a world record, to be honest. I don't actually remember where they went, to be honest, on this run. But it wasn't bottom left, I can tell you that. We get to the end of the level. We have 3 pieces of dialogue to save and, to dialogue skip through. Do the first one, we wait for these ghosts to start talking to us to do the second, and then I think Duran talks to Stukov, and we save and skip the last one, and we're done. 518. We're going to jump back into the game. I'm gonna talk now about why this level is so freaking hard to run. I explained everything from the viewpoint of a world record run, right? So everything went perfect. And don't ask how I have a Zergling, Hydra, and Muta, or an Ultralisk. Actually, you can ask. I just cheated and used the campaign editor. What sucks about this level is this bottom left base. And actually this bottom right base. I don't know how to manipulate this, and I don't think I ever will, because it's probably really deep in the game's code, and probably the people that wrote the code for this game don't understand it either. But the AI in this game can be really mean, and can just sometimes decide that you're gonna have a rough time. Bottom left, you have this bunker attacking uphill, right? And bottom right, you have this bunker attacking downhill. You saw when I was trying to showcase earlier, showcasing the 4 Marines and the medic, and I was attacking the Spore, and I kept getting dropped. It's just completely random, but each run, there's a chance of the AI just deciding to drop you. It can just decide to drop you, drop Hydras, Zerglings on your units, and there's no consistency to it. They can do it whenever they want. There's runs like the one you just saw where it didn't happen whatsoever. But I would say about 80-85% of my runs are more along the lines of I build the bunkers, I get set up, I'm playing really well, and then I just get dropped by Overlords. Overlords, of course, they have base armor, right? I'm pretty sure they have base 1 armor. I'm a newbie, don't quote me on that. They take, I mean, they have 200 HP. They take forever to kill. And any fire, especially in the bottom left here where you're wasting hits, you know, you're only hitting half your hits up this cliff anyway. It's extremely frustrating, and I don't know what more to say about it other than I have found no way to manipulate it. It will just happen. If you are to pick up this mission, just be aware of that. I don't want you to be as frustrated as I've been, because it sucks to have a really good run and you're playing really well, and then all of a sudden you just get dropped nonstop right on top of your bunkers. You start firing away at Overlords and units instead of the hives, and then before you know it, you've lost a minute. And it's really frustrating for the whole campaign run, because look, this isn't a really long campaign. It's only about 33 minutes right now. But it sucks when mission 1 and 2, like, you can play them really well, and they're not easy missions. They also require their own luck. But to get through those two, and to play really well, and get to mission 3, and also play really well, but lose because the AI just decided to be mean, really, really, really sucks. I just wanted to point that out. If you do want to pick this up, it's just a warning. Know that the AI can decide to screw you over whenever it feels like it, and to this point, I have no idea how to actually manipulate that. With all that said, I believe that's all I wanted to say about this level. I know I threw a lot of information at you, and I guess it's been an hour already, an hour and 10 minutes. That kind of blows my mind. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. I could go over the YouTube video again, but I think I've made everything clear. And y'all have eyes and ears and brains, right? Like, you don't need me to explain every single detail to you. I hope what I've said so far is sufficient. I promised earlier that I would show a trick that maybe could be useful for beating this record and getting a faster time, and also making the level more deterministic. I am actually going to do that right now. Oh, actually, let me showcase one more thing. Because I don't think I've explicitly said this yet. If you go to speedrun.com and you go to StarCraft Brood War and you go to resources, you can download the campaign scenarios in editable form. Very, very useful for, like earlier you saw me add a Zergling and Ultralisks and Hydralisk to the level. Very useful for stuff like that. Very useful for if you want to practice and you don't want to do the freaking save and loads to skip the dialogue. You can actually edit the triggers yourself and take the dialogue, the audio files out, and it'll just skip over those. It's really useful for that. I've practiced that way before. Just keep that in mind. This is my idea for a strat in the future. If you're interested in running this game, but you saw this video or you saw my world record run, and you're like, I don't want to learn that strat. Keep watching because this might be of interest to you. I don't know if this would beat the current world record, but I think it can certainly be played with. I'm going to turn on a bunch of cheat codes. I'm going to grab these two. There's a trick you can do as of patch 1.23. I'm pretty sure it works in every patch, and Blizzard's never going to patch this out. I saw this on Team Liquid, and there's actually a Korean pro gamer that uses this on ladder. I think it's a pro gamer. It might just be, well, we're using, you know, there's no true pro gamers anymore. They're all considered amateurs since there's no official scene. There's no OSLs and stuff, but you know what I mean. I think it's a top player that's been using it and not just some random. So say I build this factory here, like I would normally do. What you can actually do, and I have not practiced this, so I just am aware of it, is, let's say I get siege. And let's say you can build a bunker. Basically, if you build the bunker and lift off at the same time, you can get into this situation. So that's, I forget, it's like that. So I held liftoff and hit T and released liftoff at the same time. So I'm in the air with this siege tank in this weird state. It's like in Q. If I land and then shift clicked away, so land, shift click to move elsewhere, I will land my factory and then immediately move. But the tank will start building. And I can operations swallow this, but I'm just going to wait because it's nice to have some peace and quiet for once. I'm sure everybody is loving hearing my sexy baritone voice the entire video. So I'm sorry to offend all you guys by not talking for a couple seconds. But anyway, once this finishes, this tank is going to build on this high ground. And I can immediately, you know, do the strat as I normally would. Hit the hive. We don't have the wall up to block the ultras, so that might be a problem. I actually didn't think about that. I don't even know how this ultra got here, to be honest. I'm thinking the cheat codes affected it, and this is really loud. I'm gonna move away from here because that sounds really loud in my ear. But you get the point. By abusing this glitch, we can build on the high grounds.
Base is under attack.
By using that glitch, we can build on the high grounds without needing to lift our factory.
Base is under attack. Landing sequence.
Of course, this guy's gonna block us. Dude, look at how troll this is. An operation swell that. So we can get tanks on the high ground really early. What I'm thinking we can do is build a tank on the low grounds. Send that to bottom left right away, like really early into the level, instead of bunkering there. And then use the factory trick to build it on the high grounds. To build, you know, 2 or 3 tanks up here. And I think it could be faster than how we do it now. There's still the problem of the mining from the refinery. But I did talk to Thedorton about this, and we kind of agreed you're not going to need the academy because you don't need marine range. But you could just build a supply depot or something and leave it unbuilt, so your SCV can resume mining minerals or gas right away. And that in itself is sufficient.
Your forces are under attack.
As long as it's there, the SCVs will take a good route. You do have the eBay. I haven't experimented with this much. It could be possible to do this with a turret. I don't think it is. I don't think the turret's wide enough. No, they still take a pretty rough route. But you get the point. You would use a tank down here. The advantage of having a tank down here is that I think from the low ground, one tank that's sieged out DPS is 4 Marines. Because even if tanks miss their attacks, their splash still hits the hive, so you're still doing some kind of damage. And of course, tanks can attack air, so if you're getting dropped, you don't have to worry about targeting overlords and whatnot. You would need to protect it with Marines or Duran or something. Of course, without range, you can't use a bunker to kill this hive, so you'd have to do the old strat. The old strat is something that I've not practiced. But the old strat is basically you hit Duran, or you hit the hive from here with Duran, like you saw me do in the world record. Dude, how do they have so many dark swarms? I didn't even turn on the gathering. Fighters are broken. I wonder if they actually consume. I don't know the answer to that. But the old strat used to be to kill this hive is you would, from the very start of the level, you would dive like this, and you would kill it before you even got range. So you get behind the minerals, you like tuck in this little part over here. You kill the units that they brought out. And then once you kill all their initial forces, you tuck into the mineral line. The sunken can't hit. It can hit if you move a little closer, but it cannot hit if you hug the minerals. But if you can tuck into their little mineral line with all your Marines alive, which is not easy to do by the way, then you can just target the hive and kill it really fast. And then if you have all your army alive, which you wouldn't have all of it here because you need some of it to assist here with protecting this tank, because you would still need to kill this spore colony to get vision for your tank via your engineering bay. But once you kill this hive, you can grab everything, come up here. Instead of sliding Marines and seeking them in, you would just brute force this, so you would kill all these Guardians and Mutas with your Medics and Marines. If you put the Medics in front, the Guardians will attack them first, and Medics have 1 base armor and can take 4 Guardian hits, and of course they can heal each other. So this is all just kind of spitballing, like I haven't done this myself, but it's just a thought if someone wanted to learn it. I think it potentially could be faster. I'm not promising that, but it's just an idea, and it would be really, really cool to see this mission go below 5 minutes. I think it's possible it could go below 5 minutes on an old patch where you could slide the command center and stuff, because you could slide this like hugging these minerals, and your gas mining would be really efficient, and mining from these 3 minerals would just be instant. But I would like to see it get below 5 on a current patch where you can't just abuse tricks like that. However, if someone were to get the world record like that, I would be all for it. They need to... Like, I would like to see this game be active enough to be able to separate old versus new patches. Because it's unfair for people running current versions of the game to have to compete with old versions of the game, where people are sliding command centers and making super mutas. So it would be amazing to have this game be active enough to warrant splitting up those categories, and I would love to see that happen.
Base is under attack.
I think IAB explains all that I've wanted to. I'm running through my mind right now, making sure I have, because I just threw a lot at you. I just went through my brain for all my knowledge on the ruins of Tarsonis. We could go through the history of Tarsonis, but I unfortunately don't know anything about the lore of this game. So I am the wrong person to go through that. If you've watched this, and I have gotten multiple comments from people, like on YouTube and also elsewhere, telling me they've enjoyed these videos, so if you've watched this for educational purposes, totally comment if you have a question or if I haven't explained something sufficiently, and I'll happily re-explain it. And to those who have told me they've enjoyed it for other reasons, thank you. I'm happy that people are watching this and learning something or just having a good time otherwise. I would do a run this level right now for you, but I haven't practiced recently and it would be a disaster. So I don't even know if I want to, but like I said, I've done this several times at other events, and you can watch full campaign runs that I've done that show just how poorly it can go. But I believe that's all I wanted to say. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something, and we do still have some complex stuff coming up. Mission 4 is a really fun strat to do that has some complexity to it. Mission 5 is a really old strat that has some complexity to it. Mission 6 is the easiest mission in the world. And then Mission 7 is pretty straightforward, but Mission 8 is also a really, really fun strat that has a lot of complexity to it. So I'm really excited to talk about those. But as far as difficulty, it's by far the hardest mission in the campaign, and probably one of the hardest missions overall across all of StarCraft. But with that said, it gives me like the best feelings when it comes to executing it well. It's so fun to play. I've grinded this mission for hours and stopped feeling like I just played multiple matches on Icy Cup, or I guess the current StarCraft ladder, which is just BattleNet. Like that, it has definitely given me that feeling. So if you're looking to play something and learn a mission that's really hard, jump into this one. And when you get a good time, it's going to feel very, very fulfilling. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on Mission 4.